Our main topic today is entitled Coaching for Safety. That's where we are going to get more of what we need to do in our workplaces to catch up with the future. And for that, we have a guest presenter. That's Mr. Ahmed Elbeialy, all the way from Malaysia. And Mr. Ahmed specializes in QHSE management and has over 14 years of experience in the construction project management. And he is also ICF Associate Certified Coach. And his passion is to show people how coaching could change their lives. He is also currently leading the HSC in Asia, in Asian and South Pacific region at the Linde Engineering. So he's going to take us through the topic, coaching for safety. That is his passion. And Mr. Ahmed, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Let me share my presentation with you.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. You are welcome to take the opportunity and share with us what you have.
Okay. Maybe we start with question to kind of break the ice here, and also to test the historical knowledge of the amazing attendees with us. So, guys, just feel free to use the comment section and tell me how many pyramids were found in Egypt. Do you know? How many pyramids was found in Egypt so far? I'm looking forward to your answers. Hit me with the best you get. What about you? Do you know the answer?
Not quite well. I don't have much of the knowledge on that. I would like to also know.
I'm going to give you like a half minute more because you don't have much time. How many pyramids was identified?
Okay, there is a hand. My co-host, I think, has an answer. You can come up.
Go ahead.
110.
110. Okay, that's a good.
There's another comment.
118. Someone have just Googled it. Okay, guys. So many people that I've met worldwide profoundly believed that there are like only these 3 famous pyramids in Giza. But the shocking fact that was actually in 1842, Carl Richard Lebesgue produced the first modern list of pyramids, and it was known as the Lebesgue list that time. And he counted as 67 pyramids at that time. And the great many more have since been discovered. And now we're talking, and exactly as was mentioned in the comment section, 118 Egyptian pyramids has been identified. For years, I have been an ordinary and a typical manager who firmly believed that instructions, enforcement, and continuous monitoring were the only way to guarantee teamwork success. Until I was introduced to coaching. At that moment, I have realized the amount of extra work that I was doing just because I have less trust in others. I looked at myself and said, oh, that should be like called a control freak. Or maybe I was seeing the things from my perspective. So I have realized that most of my communication was one-sided, even if it sounded and looked like there was two-way conversation is running, but it always ended up with instructions. I'm here with you guys today not to teach you something new, but maybe to open your eyes to a whole new world of opportunities where you can transform your leadership style. My name is Ahmed, and I'm a health and safety professional, an associated certified coach by the International Coaching Federation. And I've recently developed a passion for showing people how coaching could change their life. So let me welcome you all to this session and start by saying what Martin Luther King says. I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in a history as the greatest session for coaching for safety in the history of ESH.Africa webinar series. But anyway, we'll try our best, right? And also, I want to take the opportunity to thank ESH.Africa for the kind invitation. So thanks for having me, guys. For the next hour, we'll have like 4 items to touch on. Just want to check is the presentation is on? You can see it, everyone?
Yes, from my end, I can see it clearly.
Yes, we can see it.
Very good. Let's proceed. So for the next hour, we will have like 4 items to touch on. The dilemma of safety compliance, stick and carrot versus hearts and mind, the shift, and we'll talk about the concept of coaching for safety, and then we will have a space for questions. A prevalent question that we were kind of frequently getting: why do we keep violating the safety rules? Why people keep violating the safety rules? Or why do we have a repeated incident, right? Look, if we try for a moment to think together, looking at the health and safety educational courses, training, or even any kind of organizational safety procedure that you might come across, you will find very interesting things. It is all about getting the safety professionals to know the rules that later they will need to make sure of its implementation. But we were barely trained to learn how to interact and deal with people who were supposed to follow and implement those rules. And it always goes back, to the individual capability and his own style of doing that. However, you can also notice that the majority of safety professionals firmly believe in enforcing those safety rules, or maybe this is how the system is built. And therefore, leaders across the industry have been using, what we call traditional styles like instructions and enforcement in all of their interactions at workplace. Site inspections, meeting, trainings, incident investigation, toolbox talk, etc., etc. And when the incident occurs, a typical response would be just to, let's update the organizational HSE program, or let's add more disciplinary rules, connect our incentive programs to the incident stats, or even increase supervision. And a very, very long list of actions that revolve around getting people to comply. And it never be around why they are non-compliant in the first place. In this model, you can easily notice that the human factor is ignored. And that results in what's called a fear-based safety culture. For me, as far as I can remember, almost all of the incident investigation reports that I have come across can be summarized in one sentence: people are the problem. You'll always find out, finally, in any investigation, that you're blaming someone. So Albert Einstein says, we cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking, and we use the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. So if you look at the current idea like zero incident or zero tolerance rule, or even safety's number one priority, you will find that they are centered on getting people to comply to the safety rules. Now, even though we all know that priorities change with the change in circumstances in life, we continue to enforce more rules and expect people to follow it. And if they don't, we simply blame them. And in here, we're kind of basically ignoring all the surrounding circumstances that have more effect on the chronology of the incident events, and, not about what the people actually have to do with that incident. So the idea we're going to talk about here is, instead of keep running these archaic methodologies and expecting different results, we would need to start building a human-centric safety culture where safety is seen as a value, not as a priority. People are only engaged because they want to, not because they have to. A kind of safety culture that supports a positive work environment, that foster internal growth, a culture that runs by heart and mind, not by stick and carrot. So the question remains, how to develop such a culture, how to develop a sustainable safety culture that can guarantee what you are looking for. First, we need to understand that every human group develop its own culture, right? This consists of knowledge and practices. All companies, big or small, they do have their own safety culture. But that's not to say that all safety culture are the same. Some safety culture are positive and effective, while others are just negative and downright dangerous. But essentially, company safety culture is, shared set of values and practices that guide all employees' behaviors. It is what employees do and how they act, even when nobody is watching. So we wanted to agree here that today's organization cannot depend solely on management and safety personnel to communicate about safety. Everyone in the organization must be empowered to, coach others on safety issues. For example, many organizations track the numbers of days each project gone without incident, and so while these methods and numbers are essential part of management, they aren't enough to build the strong safety culture we're looking for. So most organizations have measures for managing and reporting safety practices, but a strong safety culture means going beyond the traditional methods of driving safety. We need a culture that inspires behavioral change in the employees instead of teaching them how to act safely. And for us to, understand more about how to set a culture, we need to understand these and consider these following questions together. First question, what does the organization do to control safety? Second is, what do people do to improve safety? And the third question is, how do people think and feel about safety? So since most of the traditional existing safety culture were based on situational and behavioral aspects, they are demonstrating through the first and the second question, we should then focus on the third question, the psychological aspect. And maybe to help you guys and to help myself to understand more on how the psychological aspects control the future of any organizational safety culture, we would need to look at what's called the safety climate. So it was touched in a very good way in the summary made earlier. There are significant differences between an organizational culture and its climate. The climate of an organization can be changed almost overnight. New safety systems, procedures, even leadership changes can actually alter the work climate rapidly. Culture, on the other hand, evolves over a long time. Therefore, to change any organizational culture, we need first to change the climate. So as we have said before, every individual employees has their own unique safety culture, and these cultures are often in conflict, right? So the one effective option for changing culture is to forget about trying to enact a culture change and maybe focus instead on developing an engaging and interactive workplace climate that makes people buy into safety. And maybe the one obvious way to do that is by developing a climate that provides a sense of trust and care, like what Clive Lloyd has covered in his amazing book, Next Generation Safety Leadership from Compliance to Care. A climate directed to people's hearts and mind. If such a climate is established, then over time, people will automatically adjust their values, attitudes, beliefs, which is basically forming the safety culture, to fit the climate they are engaging in. So that climate will help reset the people norm. And then eventually the desired safety culture we're looking for will appear. So in simple way, guys, now we are basically running to a great understanding, which is leadership is a secret. And if we look here at a famous Bradley curve, which is again was covered in the summary, from the left, we start with a safety climate where people are following their instincts, right, to define what is safe and what is not, living in a reactive culture where safety is managed by authorization and zero incident is a heuristic. If we move ahead, we found ourselves in a climate where safety is managed by supervision. Zero incident in there is a dream. And people following the safety rules and procedures only for compliance. These two cultures are based on the enforcement. These are the fear culture we talked about earlier. So if we are now able to move ahead and we are able to change our leadership style and, be more proactive and engaging, and, people can actually move from being dependent to being independent, where they follow the safety rules because they want to, not because they have to. And in there, safety compliance become a personal issue and zero incident becomes a goal. However, if the organization succeeded in developing a climate that provides trust and care, compliance to safety here becomes a team commitment, and collaborative, independent culture will evolve with where zero incident becomes a choice and safety becomes a team sport. So saying that, I can easily recognize that, the ultimate desired safety culture is the interdependent culture, right? This type of culture creates a climate of trust and care. It replaces compliance with commitment. In there, safety is a team sport. Leadership is filled and present with more space for engagement that actually boosts proactiveness. And in the, at first sight, you will realize that to build such a culture, your catalyst will be leaders, right? But not any type of leaders. We need leaders with a specific non-cognitive skills, leaders who are less directive and judgmental, more curious. They raise questions instead of giving instructions. They are listening more than talking. Leaders who have a high degree of emotional intelligence. So Mahatma Gandhi says, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So leaders need to unlearn the old attitude and start to learn a new set of skills and qualities that can actually allow them to be more coach-like. And this is maybe, we want to see like a leader who's a coach-like in everything he do, in the way he interacts with people at the workplace. If the leaders were able to exhibit the coaching as a style of communication, this will kind of help them to improve the safety climate that they are working in, and eventually will promote a good ground for building a sustainable safety culture that we are looking for. I have an example for you, but before we go to the example, I wish to share with you something that I personally believe it did deliver the idea in a good way. Just try to think with me. You have an infant. I'm not sure if you guys, any of you have kids or something, but looking at the infants, you actually, when you have an infant trying to teach him how to walk, do you actually tell him, walk? No, right? You don't tell them, don't tell them walk and then they start walking immediately. Basically, first thing you do is that, you create a safe environment for him to explore. That's number one. And number two is you then encourage him, right? Motivation, guys, motivation. You encourage him to walk. And the third thing, while he starts, to explore and walking, you might create some kind of challenge, you put like his favorite toy, few steps ahead of him and ask him to get it, or even go a little bit behind and ask him, come to Baba or something. So you are creating a challenge, you're putting motivation, and you're creating a balance of demands and empowerment. But if you try to tell him walk, good luck, he will never walk. That's the point. This little Johnny that he was trying to learn to walk, he never walked because he was instructed. He walked because he was encouraged, he was supported, and he have maybe made the right environment for him, with the right challenge for him to grow. So, but the point is also, along the journey while he's trying to learn to walk, there are also falls, there are failures that happens, incidents, right? And when this incident happens, or when he fall down, we don't shout at him and say, no, why you're doing this? You're doing something wrong. You need to follow this 1, 2, 3. No, we don't do that. You see, daddy or mommy, they keep clapping for the boy and say, good job, try again. What is that, guys? You are creating the right environment. You are giving the right amount of support that he's needed for him to grow. We have here an examples for you guys from the workplace that I'd like to touch on. So let's say we have 2 different types of leaders at the workplace. Let's call the first one a typical leader and the other one visible leader. These 2 leaders have encountered the same situation during a site walk. While they are just walking outside, they have noticed that a worker has just violated one of the site safety rules. Let's see together how each one of them has handled the situation. Leader A, typical leader, have approached the worker saying, why are you conducting this safety violation? This type of questions steers the mind toward blaming, allowing you, to see only 10% of the matter. And the engagement in this case is so superficial. It focuses on the surface case, surface causes like the individual behavior or practices. And using the closed-ended question that always ended with yes or no. Did you did that? No. Yes. This kind of question steers the mind toward blaming and definitely push the individual to find an excuses out of fear. No, I didn't do that. Or yes, I did that, or I'm sorry, and keep excuses, but there is actually no understanding of why actually he was doing it. In this situation, the leader was coaching the problem, not the person. He was more looking at why the violation was made. But on the other hand, the visible leader, which is leader B, approached the situation with lots of curiosity. He's so curious and fascinated to know what happens, right? He approached the worker saying, what are the reasons that caused this to happen? Wow, that's a different type of questions. The engagement sounds more interactive and it focuses on the root cause. What are the reasons that caused this to happen? In here, we're focusing on the root cause like perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, and values. It allows you to see the bigger picture using open-ended questions that help to steer the mind towards solution, questions that provoke thinking and allow the person to answer you from a place of finding a solution. In this situation, the leader was coaching the person, not the problem. His main interest was to know what are the reasons that actually caused those, or not only why he did that. So we choose how to see people. Often we approach the situation with a pre-seated mindset, right? You go to a site, you see something doing something wrong, and the only thing in your mind that he's violating safety rules, he is the problem. With the judgment of what the outcome is without even investing more time to listen and to understand what was the real reason behind. So with all the procedures and policies and rules, or even more enforcement, we can still see ourselves running in the same circles and having similar safety incidents recurring at our sites. But if we really want to improve our safety performance, a simple shift in the mindset by seeing the person in a problem, not the person as the problem, and that he needs, support rather than seeing him as the problem, which is what we often do, right? A simple shift in the way we approach different safety situations at the site can actually yield in a different great result. Remember the example of the kid. If we just chat at the kid, he will actually, be reluctant and maybe being a little bit afraid of trying to walk again. But if you give him the right amount of empowerment and support that he needed it, this is actually can create the right environment for him to grow. Seeing the person as the problem, you're seeing actually the half empty of the cup. And your mindset is all about blaming while seeing the person in a challenge. makes you see the half full side of the cup. And your positive mindset will be motivated toward the solution. So, you know, what could be fascinating to you is, with a little bit of exposure to the coaching world, you quickly realize that these sets of qualities that we're talking about, these non-cognitive skills, are maybe a good summary of the International Coaching Federation, the 11 core competencies, like establishing trust and intimacy, practice active listening, where actually people feel that they are empowered, they are important, they feel inclusiveness just by listening to them. Powerful questions that steer the mind towards solution, not only close-ended question that leads to blaming. Direct communication, creating awareness. You know, when you ask someone and you allow him to come up with the answer, you are actually creating awareness and also increasing the accountability for him to take his own actions. Cultivating these qualities with our future leaders will definitely yield the birth of a leader who's also a coach. You know, Les Brown wrote something that in this sitting I would love to share with you, and I wish that you guys make this word your own and move toward with different future for the HSE world. He says there are winners and losers in our life, and there are people who haven't discovered how to win. All they need is some coaching. All they need is some help and assistance. Just a little support. All they need is some insights and different strategy or plan of action to make some adjustment that will open up the key to a whole new future for them. That will give them access to the unlimited power that they have within themselves. That's all what they need. This is the time for questions, and I'm really open, and hopefully we get a few interesting questions to answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That was Mr. Ahmed Elbeialy presenting on the topic coaching for safety. And as he started, he took us through the dilemma of safety compliance. Then went on to talk about what he defines as stick and carrot versus the hearts and minds. Then he jumped into the shift that is needed. And he then went on to talk about coaching for safety. So that was his presentation, and I guess everyone has got a few points from what was presented. And now it is an open opportunity for questions, comments, so that we can have a discussion on this subject. So I'll like to give this moment to our participants. If there are any comments, if there are any questions, feel free. Mr. Ahmed is with us today, and I think you answer each and every question that we might have. So let's take the opportunity, everyone. You may make use of the reactions button, or you can also make use of the chat section to put in your opinions, comments, or questions. Okay.
I want to keep my smile. I mean, it's more questions. Going to keep my smile. So, hit me with your best.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, 2 participants raised hand. Okay, that's amazing.
Okay, there is Nora. Nora, you can take the opportunity.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the very powerful presentation.
Okay, Nora, there was a bit of echo, but now it's clear. Can you go again?
Yeah, I'm trying to adjust. I'm not sure what's happening to my speaker. Can you hear me now?
I would suggest maybe you drop your question in the comment section.
Yes, I think we have an issue with Nora, but as she's fixing that, I think we can give the opportunity to Fungai. You can come up. Nora is fixing up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this presentation. I just want to touch on the aspect to hear your opinion on the aspect of heart and mind versus carrot and stick. How do you drive that balance? Because often, as you mentioned before, that the procedures are usually very well written. The rules are clear cut. Everyone kind of knows what is right or wrong, or it's outlined. But at times you find that, the hearts and minds aspect, you always have those that push the boundaries or that deliberately test the stick aspect, the stick side, just to see what action is taken. And many times you see that in organizations, the application of the rules is usually not consistent. But how do you strike that balance between, the coaching aspect, encouraging, and also the stick side? Thank you.
Thank you for the great question. It is very important to touch here maybe about a very hot topic, which is emotional intelligence, right? And just before answering your question, I don't want you guys to, get me wrong that I'm against the current practices on construction site. I'm actually believing much more in them, but I feel like they need to be maybe reframed and used in a certain context to avoid sending the wrong messages, right? Like, for example, using incentive in a way to encourage people with the incident stats, right? That's actually building a very, very, wrong culture that we don't want it to grow. But for us to understand, to create the balance between demand and empowerment at employees, leaders need to have a certain level of emotional intelligence, certain degree, where they are able to understand their own emotion, to control their anger and any unpleasant feeling. And in the same way, they need to have social intelligence also, where they understand the feeling of others. They understand also where the people need the empowerment and where they need the challenge, where they can add more challenge and where they can add more empowerment. Also, using coaching techniques like powerful question and active listening. For example, an employee comes to you with a problem, right? And he asks you, hey, I have this problem. Can you tell me what to do? Now you have two ways. Either you instruct the employees and you're actually killing any chance for growing, or you bounce back with a very powerful question. In your opinion, what could be the solution we follow? Or maybe you can create a mix of sharing your experience or passing a knowledge down as a mentor, and in the same time you balance with a question, like you balance with a question saying, what else could be done? And then here you're actually allowing the person to grow. When it comes to construction site, at site, when we have like violations, you have two choices. Either to go directly with disciplinary action, or you give yourself a chance to go beyond that and start to ask few questions with curiosity and fascination. Wanted to understand what is actually the real reason behind this to happen. So questions like, what do you think could go wrong here? Or what is the reason that caused this to happen? And you find workers are feeling a bit relaxing because they feel like you are not coming to thread them, right? And they start giving you some opinions like, oh, I was forced because we have a limited time schedule. I was forced by my supervision to do that. I have to do that because I have less, resources and tools. And you suddenly realize, oh my God, it is not his problem anymore. People are not the problem. There are other circumstances that actually cause this to happen. And by you realizing that, you will definitely put the right support that they deserve. So for you to understand, to create that balance between empower and demand, you really need to have a certain degree of emotional and social intelligence where you can understand your feelings and the others' feelings and their needs as well. And coaching skills are one of the best that can actually lead you to that, by just listening with curiosity, trying to change the attitude, seeing the person as in a problem and he have a challenge and he needs support and help, rather than seeing the people as the problem. I hope that can help.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mpunga, for that question. And thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for the answer and the response that you gave. Nora was fixing a speaker, but she managed to give us a comment at the chat section. So it reads, thank you for a very powerful presentation. Just a question from me is, how do you deal with recurrence in workplace? That's a question. How do you deal with
recurrence of incidents, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very big and wide question. But if I would like to create a spot on, I would just see that this is pretty much connected to how we deal with incident in the first place. Okay, so let's say we have incident are happening. Recurrence of incident, there must be a reason that already happened before that leads us to the recurrence, right? So we really need to go back and think about what was done in the first place, in the first incident, how we did deal with it, what kind of message we have sent. You know, as I mentioned in my presentation, you see most of the corrective action we're taking is, centered around, let's update our procedures, let's add disciplinary, let's add supervision, but nothing about what the people actually need to make sure that they grow and they understand that they have more awareness and accountability to avoid falling for the same mistake again, right? So to answer your question in the best way, if you are talking about a current incident that reoccur at your workplace, the best way is to go back to the first incident and see what you have done there. And maybe you apply the tips and the things that we covered in today's presentation. Is that good enough?
Unfortunately, she's got issues with the mic, but I think she will make a comment on the chat section.
Yes.
There is a reaction. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Is there anyone else with a question, comment, or any additions from our participants? Okay, let me refer to the chat section and you see if there is anything. Okay, there is a comment from that I saw earlier from Helena. She was saying, can we have the less brown coat on the screen, please? I think she wants to comment on that one.
It's not on the screen, but the good news is there is an article that's going to be published in 25th, right? So ESH.africa magazine is going to publish an article titled "Who You Think Would Win, Stick and Carrot or Hearts and Mind?" And in the article, it's actually tailed by the Les Brown says, so you can have it there in 2 days.
Okay, I think Helen, thank you. Helen, we have heard that the Les Brown quote will be in our magazine that is to be published on the 25th of October this month. So yes, you can download the PDF or read online and get the Les quote Brown from Mr. Ahmed. Yeah. Okay. There is another comment from Molapo saying, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Ahmed. You just opened my eyes to see that indeed we have lacked proper coaching for so long. And I actually think that has been the issue with most of our practitioners. We have been using the traditional approaches where enforcement and compliance has been our main component of our programs with less coaching. But thanks to Mr. Ahmed today, he managed to present one of the approaches that can be based for building a good safety culture. And another comment from my co-host saying this is a great presentation. The example in encouraging the baby how to walk, the encouragement in safety aspects really makes sense. This definitely applies in organizations rather than shout and or blame, get the correct step in achieving the goal. Very true. The point there was when we do our investigations, when we investigate incidents at our workplaces, let's ensure that we look not to blame, but we focus on what are the reasons, the root causes, and look to address those root causes, like highlighted by Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for that comment. Another comment from Mohammed saying, Ahmed, thanks for the presentation. I have a concern. on those workforce who lived and educated based on the memorization style. They are waiting all the time to direct instructions. For me, they are uncoachable mindsets. Is there a various coaching technique that suit all mindsets and educational backgrounds? I hope you get that, Mr. Ahmed.
Can you repeat one more time?
Okay, he's saying our education system, mainly in Africa, is based on memorizing style. It don't give us opportunity to think for ourselves. So he's saying with those people, they are just waiting to get instructions. They will memorize and comply to. So his question is, their mindsets are uncoachable. So is there a coaching technique that suits all the mindsets and educational backgrounds?
That's really, I totally agree. I can't agree more with that. To be honest, the good news is this archaic methodologies or styles that we've been using all this time, the good news is that it's unlearnable. And also the new techniques are learnable. You know, our brain is like a cup of tea. Now, the problem is this cup of tea is completely filled, right? And if you want it to have more, you need to, kind of minimize what is in your cup. You need to unlearn in order to fill with the new. So yes, you can learn the techniques and you can unlearn the old habits and methodology, the archaic methodology that work with. And that's what we was referring to, that leadership, or this archaic methodology of leadership, we need to let it go. We need to unlearn. Leaders need to unlearn this methodology and start to learn. Maybe this is the challenge of the future. It's not about now learning. It's actually about unlearning. Unlearning is the challenge now. We need to unlearn all of this methodology and start to learn. With coaching, the beautiful thing about coaching is that, and this is, quite funny. As a coach, you don't need knowledge in the topic you are coaching someone in, right? So, for example, you don't need to know about space if you wanted to coach, an astronaut. You can actually coach an astronaut just by learning how to coach. Because with coaching, you are going there with an open mindset, with curiosity and fascination and asking open-ended questions. This will never, ever, need any kind of knowledge on the topic itself, right? So maybe this is, I hope that's a good answer to your question.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, are you answered? Okay, you can make a comment from our chat or just use the reaction button. Okay, let me proceed with our chat section to check for more questions, for more comments. There's another one from Tandekile saying emotional intelligence is quite critical. My question is, what is your opinion between the interaction between those in operations and human resources in improving coaching for safety?
Again, one more time, excuse me. Can you say it again?
It reads, emotional intelligence is quite critical. Yes. My question is, what is your opinion between the interaction with those in operations and human resources in improving coaching for safety?
Okay, so I guess this approach is not designed for a set of people, like a certain department or certain people. This approach is set for an entire culture for organization, right? So we are now talking about, if you want this to succeed, like for real, you need to drive a culture that goes for everyone, not only HR or safety. This is something that works for everyone, where leaders are there avoiding instructions, style of instructions, and going more of curiosity, raising questions rather than giving instruction, creating an environment for people to grow. And as you just referring, that definitely required a high degree of emotional intelligence. So we are talking about here driving a kind of a set of qualities to everyone in an organization. So eventually, if that's happened, you will yield in the culture we're looking for.
Okay, thank you. Tandekile, I guess you have been answered there. Or you need more clarification, you can make use of the chat section. Okay, is there anyone else with a question or contribution to our discussion today? Okay, I have a question of my own, especially in developing countries here in Africa, most of the African countries. We have seen that over the ages, nepotism have been taking over. People have been employed because they have links. You are a relative of the manager, or you have someone in the high ranks at a company. Now, those people, when they are introduced into the system, they actually present challenges to SHE practitioners, especially when they are using these traditional approaches in their safety programs of compliance. Those people, they tend not to comply, they tend not to follow rules because of the channel they came into the organization. So my question is to you, Mr. Ahmed, how do you deal with such people? I think it's more the same like Mohammed's question. How do you do it?
I mean, I genuinely believe that safety is not a job of certain people again. So, I mean, I work in different countries and I totally understand where you're talking about, where you come from. And then I'm saying to this that in some countries and certain culture, you can see that the safety practitioner are being, highlighted as the responsible person for safety, which is totally a wrong idea, right? Safety is not a specific or a special things for us. No, that's actually, a part of our job, It's everyone's responsibility, It seems cliche to others, but that's the reality. We don't, and I genuinely believe that I don't need to hire someone to tell me what to do and what not to do in terms of safety, right? I should have the right awareness and accountability level that allows me to identify what is right and what is wrong for me. And that's the whole idea. We need to stop hiring a watcher for people to do something safe or not. No, it's about getting the people to be able to recognize and identify what is safe and what is not, and to be able to have that level of awareness and accountability that they needed. So in a simple way, safety is not a job for someone to do. Mostly the safety practitioners are there to create a good atmosphere and the right safety climate, and they give the advice when it's needed. And I would just refer to what I said in the beginning. Most of safety practitioner was like, teached only about the rules and procedures and how to implement them. But we will never be teach how to interact with those people that they actually supposed to do this, So, and then should we have the assumption that we always need to be there like a, policing style, which is quite famous, in pushing those people to follow. But a simple thing, just, a very simple thing, go to the construction site, right? And stop by any worker and ask him a very simple question. What can go wrong here in the job that he's doing? If that worker are not able to give you an answer of what kind of hazards are associated with his activity, the whole organization and process and system and documents and paper and all of this failed. That's it. Because in a simple way, our job, all of us, is to make sure that the people at the site does have the right level of awareness so they can identify what kind of hazard is associated with their job, and they have the right level of accountability so they can take the right decision when it's needed. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I guess I've been answered on that one. Is there anyone else from our chat section who might want to say something?
Yeah, I have a question just regarding the internal and external factors that influence the economics of the safety around construction sites. And how does the global income affect the World Wide Web threshold and outflows?
Okay, I'm trying to connect this to our topic, but if I try to spot an area of our topic to the question, I would say that we're definitely, when we plan for project, we definitely see that we are creating a huge cost, right? A huge cost just by running the wrong corrective actions or running the wrong methodologies to get people to comply. While we are just wanted like investing in trainings and investing in supervision and, you know, enforcing certain programs, and all of these are hours and money is being wasted on the wrong way. Well, I guess in my opinion, we need to like shift the focus into more approach that's centric around humans and what they feel and what they need. And I guess that will be a lower cost, a way lower cost in terms of when it comes to implementation at site. So.
Thank you for that one. There's another hand from Fungai. You can come up.
Thank you for that. Ahmed, I've got a question. Okay. We touched on it a bit earlier around our education system in developing countries, or particularly in Africa, which tends to be focused on cramming. What would be the ideal education system that incorporates or prepares us for the workplace in terms of safety and health? Thank you.
It happens that your answer is quite big, and I would just invite you to attend a live stream in 2 weeks from now with a German safety professional named Fuad Masaro. We are actually touching on the topic or how the educational system affect the safety performance, right? And I don't want to, talk too much about the topic to burn it out, but he's going to tell us what he think the changes needed to the educational system so we can have a better, safety compliance in the future. Because he strongly believes that what we are, gaining now at the construction site needed to be somehow cultivated at, starting the schools, at kids. They need to be learned different set of qualities that can help them, to get better comply when they are out to the market. So I will just invite you to attend that on our YouTube channel in 2 weeks' time. So I hope you enjoy that.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Look forward to it. Cheers.
You're welcome. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Fungai, for that question. And I guess everyone, you are also welcome to attend the session highlighted by Mr. Ahmed. And I would like to also add on the question that was raised by Fungai. Yes, it's very true. The educational system is based on memorizing, and every year there is a bunch of students that graduate that are released into the industry in the field of safety and health. And I would like to believe this year there are thousands of students also that are being released into the industry, and we have been through this educational system of memorizing. Now, my question to you, Mr. Ahmed, what advice would you like to give to such a newbie who is at an entry level, trying to create a career in SHE? How should they conduct themselves in the industry to get the best results?
Coming from a passionate place toward coaching, there are many ideas and advices that can giving to a fresh graduate or someone who is actually willing to start. But I would just go for you need to explore the world of coaching, and you need to try to think about how could you be more curious and fascinated about people and how we interact with people. And how could you drop this old methodology that may be, coming from a heritage of education or so, or culture or whatever, and start to be more curious about the humans and what exactly they need. And definitely there are great books that actually can be touched in this area, like Coaching for Performance for Sergio Whitemore, or, Emotional Intelligence. There are 2 great books that actually can be touched or the book that I really referred for Clive Lloyd earlier in the session. These books can actually, open your eyes and minds to a different world from the one you actually have been, dealing with before or even studied. So.
Okay, I guess the point there is to learn new things and learn what you have been taught and start grasping new things. Thank you for that one.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone from our participants, audience, who has a comment, question, or additions to this discussion today? Okay, let me check our chat section if there is anything. Okay, nothing. Oh, there is another hand. Obey, you can take the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, host. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for enlightening the SHE practitioners. My question is, there's a situation whereby you are implementing a SHE system at an organization, but we have the management, right? With maybe the foreman, above the foreman, with maybe the departmental managers that will be working with the employees in different workshops. You might find that some of this management, they might have little information with regards to SHE, or maybe in short, I would say there will be, a challenge between maybe SHE system implementation and the production. So I don't know how to bridge that gap there as a safety officer. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Look, we referred I referred to the presentation again. I mentioned when it comes to the safety climate and safety culture, I said that every human, every individual at the workplace, they have their own safety culture. And as I said, they are often in conflict, right? So I mean by that your understanding of the safety requirement is definitely different from mine. Your perception and how you sit to receive, your level of compliance is definitely different from the others. And that's form your safety culture, right? So we do have this little, different safety culture for each individual. And as I said, they are often in conflict. But the way is to create a certain climate of trust and care and to drive that across the organization. That could lead to the sustainable safety culture we're looking for. Now, if you try to deal with that individually, it's definitely a big challenge, right? Because you are driving this through only the set rules and procedure. You're looking at the service practices and behaviors only, but you are not looking deep on the perceptions and values of the people, how they see safety, how they perceive it, right? So it is really important to, get out of, this individual bubble for everyone and go out and try to create that climate you are looking for. So maybe I would just encourage you when you're dealing with someone, that's what I do. I approach people with curiosity. And when they are seeing that I'm not there to judge them, they started to, open up and speak, because unfortunately we go there with a preset mindset. And when humans are very smart, they can, feel it. They can sense that you are judging them, right? Just by the question you ask. So if you go there with curiosity and open-ended question, using powerful question coaching skills, you actually sending the message that I want to understand. And that can actually help you to create that, atmosphere and that climate of trust that we are looking for. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you very much. Very impressive.
You're welcome. Any more questions? So I guess our admin, there is no more question, I believe. We're still there?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that I was on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, I was saying thank you, Obey, for your question, and thank you for the response, Mr. Ahmed. Is there anyone with a question from our audience pertaining the discussion we have today?
Someone is asking for the presentation. It's okay. We definitely can share it. No problem there.
Yeah, we will share. Even the recordings will be on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. That
will be available for everyone. Is there anyone else with a question from the audience? Okay, if not, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for a very insightful presentation. It's something that is very new to most of the SHE practitioners, even the company owners, the managers. It's something that is something that is relatively new to everyone. And I guess what has been presented to us today by Mr. Ahmed, it's something that will go a long way to change the way we conduct ourselves as SHE practitioners, as managers, as leaders in our companies, as the supervisors, SHE representatives. We are now taking the approach of coaching more than just policing for safety. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Before we close in, since we no longer have more questions on the subject, I would like to give this moment to you, Mr. Ahmed, if there are any words of encouragement or any closing remarks that you might have before we end.
I really appreciate all the people for saving the time and participating actively with us today. So thank you very much, and thanks ESH.africa for having me today. As I showed to the presentation, if you guys are interested in more into the topic of construction safety and coaching, mentoring, personal development, you can always follow us on the Interdependent Leadership YouTube channel. So I'm just because someone is asking, I'm just gonna drop the channel link for you here if you want to just go and check. Okay, so that's all for me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being with us today and taking up your time to present with us and all the information that you have shared. And I believe it will change lives, and it will change people's perceptions and how they conduct themselves in their workplaces. Okay, everyone, thank you for those that participated, all the questions that have been raised, and I would like to believe the response that we gave today we are going to implement those in our workplaces, in our communities, in our homes, so that we improve safety and health management. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. We hope to have you next time in another discussion, in another topic. That was quite a great topic. Thank you for taking your time with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay. So like I said, towards the end, we are going to make an announcement. So our first announcement is about the upcoming session, and that is on the 29th of October, next week, Friday. Our guest presenter there is Mr. Bolanji Foloruncho, all the way from Nigeria. There's something that I forgot to mention. Mr. Ahmed is in Malaysia, but he's actually from Egypt, so he's one of us. He's well acquainted about the African situation.
Brothers, yes.
Very, very true. So next week we are going to have Mr. Bolanji Foloruncho from Nigeria, and he's going to present on the topic confined space in construction. Another announcement that we have today is our October issue is our October issue is coming up on the 25th of October. That's when it will be published. So you can access that one on all our social media platforms as well as our web page. And for those that may want to join us, maybe you have a topic of interest that you may want to discuss with us, you can also contact us on all the contact details that are displayed on the screen. And also if you have an article that you want us to feature in our our magazine. You can also contact us on all our contact details that are shared, as well as if you want to advertise with our magazine, feel free to get in touch with us. We are open to everyone, and we are open for any suggestions as well as feedback from you guys. That was that for today, and we'll hope to see everyone next week. That is the 29th of October on Friday, same time with Mr. Bolanji. But as I highlighted, as usual, we always conclude with our group photo. So at this moment, I would like to encourage everyone to turn on our video so that we can capture this moment for memory's sake. So everyone, you may turn on your video so that we can take a group photo, a virtual group photo. So unfortunate that these days we are no longer meeting physically, but we can get use of what's there, make use of what's there. Okay, everyone say cheese in 5 seconds. Say cheese and smile. Okay, thank you. I think our photo has been captured. Okay, that was a great session with Mr. Ahmed today. And thank you everyone for taking your time with us and those that contributed to the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for the opportunity, for taking your time with us, and would like to believe that we'll see you next week. That was that for today, and we are concluding our session.